It is without a doubt that the Midland Railway's settle to Carlisle line offers some of the most stunning vistas to be seen from a railway carriage anywhere in Britain. Described as 72 miles of scenic splendour, the Settle Carlisle Railway has brought me to this special market town in the Yorkshire Dales. My companion on most of my railway journeys is a copy of George Bradshaw's Railway Handbook of 1861. But for this journey along the Settle Carlisle line, this line wasn't open until 1876, which was 15 years after my Bradshaw's Handbook was published. For this journey, I've turned to a Pearson's Railway Rides Handbook of 1991, which really sums up the journey from Carlisle to Settle when it says it's not just a railway, it's more of a national monument. The station here at Settle is beautifully maintained and presented, and it's really captivating. It's like stepping back to a bygone age. Like most of the stations on the line, this station was designed by the Midland Railway's company architect John Holloway Sanders and was opened on the 1st of May 1876. It is interesting that Settle is served by two stations, not only the main station here, but also at Giggleswick, which is about a mile to the southwest, which is on the Bentham line that runs between Leeds and Morecambe via Lancaster. I was really taken with this ex-North British Railways footbridge that was formerly located at Drem Station in East Lothian until the East Coast Main Line was electrified. It was then dismantled and re-erected here in 1993. Later in the video, I'll be visiting the Folly, which is one of the Yorkshire Dales' only Grade 1 listed buildings, and it contains a permanent exhibition about the history of the Settle Carlisle line. The writing was on the wall for this line even back as far as 1963 in the Beeching Report, which recommended that passenger services be withdrawn. It was freight traffic that kept the Settle Carlisle line open, but British Rail were reluctant to invest in the line, and much of the infrastructure, including many of the viaducts and tunnels, deteriorated, most notably the Ribblehead Viaduct. In fact, by the early 1980s, this majestic line was handling only a handful of trains every day, and British Rail recommended that the line be completely closed. It is ironic that on the day that British Rail announced its closure plan, the overhead wires on the West Coast Main Line blew down, and it was the Settle Carlisle line that proved its worth as a diversionary route for intercity trains, proving that duplicate lines still had their part to play, despite Beeching's desire to eliminate them. If you watch my video on the Ribblehead Viaduct, you'll see that one of the primary reasons put forward for closure was the huge cost of repairing and waterproofing the viaduct itself, which was stated at £6 million. However, it was later demonstrated that the true cost would be much lower. There was a backlash against plans to close the line, which went nationwide with more than 32,000 written objections. Local councils joined forces with the protesters, claiming that the route had been deliberately run down, and it was an example of closure by stealth. Traffic had been diverted away from the route, the costs of repairs had been exaggerated, and not enough had been done to promote its tourism value. One of the objections received to the line's closure was famously from a dog. Russwarp was a border collie cross who travelled the line with his owner and co-founder of the Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line, Graham Nuttall. He signed the petition to save the line with his paw print. Russwarp's objection was allowed to stand, and the dog appeared at the Transport Users Consultative Committee inquiry in Appleby, Skipton and Settle, which opened in March 1986. English Heritage offered £1 million, which was at the time its biggest ever grant, towards the repair of the Ribblehead Viaduct, and local councils raised an additional £500,000 to help save the line. There is no doubt that the Settle Carlisle Line would not now exist had it not been for the intervention of the Friends Group, who were originally formed in 1981 to campaign against the closure plans. In April 1989, Michael Portillo, who was Minister of State for Transport, confirmed that the Secretary of State was refusing consent for British Rail to close the line. In a letter to the Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line, Portillo, who later acquired fame for his Great British Railway Journeys TV series, added, "I look to the Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line Association to cooperate vigorously in supporting and promoting the line as you have promised." The Friends kept their promise and are still very active today, and I'm very proud to say that I'm a member. The Settle and Carlisle Line would have its day again. Today's big debate over the beaching closures is as much about hindsight as the decision-making processes of his day. Who, back in 1963, might have foreseen the widespread demise of the British manufacturing industry in the 1980s and the huge social changes that it brought? Saving the line was not the end of the story, it was just the beginning. Timetabled services increased in frequency, and many of the previously closed stations reopened, and there was even heavy freight traffic returning in significant quantity. There's also steam-hauled excursions over the line, and these have gone from strength to strength. This beautiful standard timber-built signal box was opened on the 12th of April 1891. It was manufactured at the Midland Railway Company's signalling workshop in Derby and is a Type 2A design. It was closed for operational reasons in May 1984 and was derelict for a number of years. The box is still owned by Network Rail, but is classed as a non-operational heritage asset and was given to the Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line on a long-term loan, with the proviso that the structure was resited and restored. The box was moved approximately 150 yards to the north from its original position beside the goods shed, which has since been demolished, to its current location at the southern end of the southbound platform. The box has been fully restored, thanks to grants and donations totalling over £14,000, along with a great deal of volunteer time and effort. It still contains its original 20-lever tumbler locking frame, and the box was granted Grade 2 listed status in August 2013. It's now run as a small working museum, and it's staffed and maintained by a small group of dedicated volunteers. The box is open to the public most Saturdays between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. The Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line also restored the signal box at Armathwaite Station, which is further down the line towards Carlisle, and which is open to the public most Sundays. I went along to film the box last year as part of the series of videos that I made covering stations of the Eden Valley, and you'll find it on my YouTube channel. Along with the other station buildings at Settle, this remarkable water tower, or tank house as it was known, is also a listed structure. The tank held 43,000 gallons, that's about 150 tonnes of water, and there was sufficient water in the tank to supply the water needs of 8 of the largest steam locomotives without it needing to be replenished. During 2011, the water tower was restored and adapted to be a private house, retaining all of its original features, and the work was televised for Channel 4's Restoration Man series. This very busy, bustling market town dates from the year 1249, and it's full of historic buildings, with one Grade 1 listed building, the Folly, which I'll be visiting shortly, and more than 70 Grade 2 listed buildings. The town contains a fascinating range of local and independent shops, galleries, and cafes. The famous composer Sir Edward Elgar often stayed at this house as the guest of his friend Dr. Charles William Book. The shambles dominates the northern side of the marketplace. Built in 1780, it consists of a row of shops with single-storey cottages above and basements below. Built in 1679, the Folly is one of the Yorkshire Dales' only Grade 1 listed buildings. It started life as a gentleman's residence, but it's also been a farm, a lodging house, a holiday let, and even a fish and chip shop. The Folly houses a museum which tells the story of North Craven life, starting from the local landscape and its influence on all aspects of life in the area. I was really fascinated by this display. You see here some brass tokens which were used as paychecks to establish the identity of a railway employee when collecting a pay packet. This railway cap belonged to station master Rodney Hampson, who was based at Dent Station in the 1950s. Last but not least is Thomas Edmondson's ticket dating press, which was used to print the date on the standard pasteboard ticket used widely by most railway companies from the 1840s and was still in use until the late 1980s. Railway workers need to distinguish between red and green colours used in signals. Colour blindness was tested using the Thompson's stick, where 3 samples of yarn had to be matched with the yarn hanging from the stick. The overriding thing that I will take away from my visit today is that you can see why the Settle Carlisle Line is more than just a railway. It's a piece of magnificent engineering and architecture. It's a part of our cultural heritage, our landscape, our history, and our passion. It's certainly gratifying to see the line continue to flourish, with increasing numbers of passenger, freight, and steam heritage services using it. Being a member of the Friends of the Settle Carlisle Line, I've seen at first hand their continued commitment to maintaining and promoting England's greatest scenic railway. Join me next time when I'll be travelling the Kendal and Windermere Railway, which is otherwise known as the Lakes Line. I'll be learning more about the history of the line and calling at the stations of Windermere, Staveley, Burnside and Kendal. For many more videos from the Settle Carlisle Line and beyond, please check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Stephen Bennett's Railway Adventures.